I've been here yesterday already, and I guess we're all pretty much on the same page, no matter from what angle we are approaching this data visualization, working with data. Today, I would like to add one slice of that whole thing, which we describe by data-driven journalism. It's going around, it's a topic, it's catching on, but I still meet quite a few people who said data-driven journalism, never heard of it, and I would like to give a brief overview and then be open for questions later in the discussion. So there's a Twitter hashtag that we use for data-driven journalism. If anybody of you wants to tweet or wants to join this community, the best source for that would be the hashtag DDJ. And now, it's one facet that I'm talking about of what we're all searching for. And I believe that if journalism would adopt working with data stronger, if we bring data into newsrooms, we could even achieve a switch of the current model from attention to trust. And I want to tell you what's behind that. So let me first talk about the old story, which is the story of today. You are here. This is your position. And you're surrounded by a certain circle of trust, which is what you can see with your senses, the people you know, all the information that is really relevant for you. And so far, to survive, we pretty much rely on our senses, what we see, what we hear, what we can sense with our nose, our experience, advice from friends, and conventional wisdom. And my thought on connecting to the topic of this particular afternoon is, for the future, this is not enough. Because on the other side, corporations, business, profit-driven organizations have switched around. They use data quite a bit, whether it's H&M, McDonald's, Zara. These are data-driven companies for the last 10, 15 years. They are so successful because they figure out how to produce something and sell it based on a lot of data crunching. So this has an effect to all of us as individuals. This is our circle, and this circle is surrounded by brands and corporations that, like, moving to you, try to be coming around familiar so that we kind of see them as friendly. Sometimes they are friendly, sometimes they have a hidden agenda. So there's no big problem with that, but there are other data spaces as well that we don't see that good. These are the black boxes where all the data is collected and digested and crunched into certain things for some reasons. And that might be really good reasons, it might be bad reasons. When the problem is we don't see it with our senses anymore. And then there's something new that has happened only recently. This is the internet and the social networks. They're moving much closer to our individual personality. There's much more of ourselves in that data, which somebody who could see the whole picture could interpret and draw conclusions from it. And one of my growing feeling of uneasiness is that I don't have an idea of what somebody could do with my data, right? And the point about data-driven journalism is that it's kind of trying to be a leveler, that the disparity of having access to information and data and visualizing it, making it graspable, is kind of leveled down. It's not, you know, solving all the problems that we might have, but it's like a force that should be on your side and not on somebody else's side. And I would argue that in today's business, this disparity of having access to data is an enabler of modern cheating. I spent the last 2 days here in Amsterdam, and I tried to find out with cab drivers whether what I'm talking about sounds like a lunatic, a tree hugging, or something that people can grasp. And I met this one cab driver who said, "You talk about modern cheating. I know exactly what you mean." It's, you know, the small things, like trying to end a mobile phone subscription. How many of you have kind of forgot, that the 24 months were up because, they show you a lot of data, but not that termination date and the last date when you could terminate that subscription. I had a hacked Twitter account this morning for the first time in my life. It was not the first identity theft, but I spent a considerable amount this morning trying to appease all my network because my Twitter account was not mine anymore. Comparing the costs of products and services. We have a lot of free services from Google. What are the costs associated to that? Understanding full costs of a loan when you refinance a house or a car. That's all made quite complicated. And my question is, from a personal urban style of surviving, is it needed to be that complex? And there are bigger examples of misuse of data. I would argue that the subprime crisis was kind of a hacking, a data breach. A lot of information was published about that, but it was hard for all of us to see the disaster in the making. The debt crisis that is very current right now, all the reporting leaves kind of an anxiety with me for my family and our whole future. I don't understand it. There's a lot of talk about it, but I don't see, will Greece survive? Will it not? Can you judge it from all the information that you got so far? I would like to see that more clearly visualized. And I think the only way is not by watching what we can see, like talking to politicians, but by looking into the data. And on another level, there's another level of data that is piling up very quickly, and that has been a topic here already, tracking everyone in real time. So the question here is from a point of data-driven journalism, who owns your data? Is that you or is it others? And there are a lot of questions with this data in real time. Why is it collected? Where is it stored? Why is it kept? How is it used? There's a growing uneasiness. I don't think that Google in itself, for example, is evil, but they're getting really big. And it's kind of leaving a certain sense of, if I use Google Mail and Google Plus and Google Search, how big is the profile that they have of me? And could I please see that? Just once? The conclusions that they're drawing from that? And we need to get some more clarity. And now, I show you a very precise example of recent data journalism that came out of Germany. It was not done by me. It was done by a company of Berlin, Open Data City. They got the data from a green politician who sued Deutsche Telekom to give away the data that we were storing about his iPhone, 180 days. And then they visualized what you can draw, the information that you can draw out of this. So it's an animated animation. You can watch these politicians for 180 days moving fast forward, and it's amazing what you can see. And that resonated quite a bit, and it came to a bigger topic, and at the end we saw some change. So the iPhone has now the ability to switch off the location data. But that's just one example. So the point about data-driven journalism is that I would like to rewrite the script and create a news story. And why we need a news story? Right now, the big story that is pervasive about everything is that there's an economic driver. Profitability is the final question of everything. We here, people at Picnic, people on the panel here, are kind of in an elevated position to be, watching this. Out there are a lot of people with anxieties. I feel my own anxieties about the future. What will I do? How will I work? Will journalism still be there? Will it be financeable? And that applies to quite a few jobs around in the Western economy. And now, the point here is that I think we need a process, a defined process in newsrooms, how to transform data into story. And this is a very little sketch that we did last year when we organized a data-driven journalism conference here in Amsterdam. And it's simplified. It's intentionally simplified. It says there's raw data. It's like, you're going to the market and you get the raw vegetable. Then you need to peel the potatoes, filter the data, cook it up, make it nice, and serve it. So a lot of the people in data-driven journalism are likening this process to like cooking. It's like, if you don't know what you have to do, it's like complex. But if you just play around with it, you might come down to that the easy dishes are probably the best. So it's not that technical. The point is that we need to understand that there's a process to it, that there's the value to the public is rising if we can package data into a story. That's the point about it. And increasingly, and most of you will know that, there are sources to download data. There's an open data movement that says this data has been collected based on the money we paid with our taxes, so open it up, let us look into it. And increasingly around the world, we see organizations enabling this download of data. There are a lot of questions about how good that data is, but it's the first time at all that we have an ability to look into it. And so this is the start at the source. Now, the next question is, what can you do with it? And this is an example from David McCandless. He has a website called Information is Beautiful and did a really nice book about it. And this is just one example that I use to show people what data-driven journalism can do. This is $1 billion-ogram. And McCandless said he saw so many reports about billions going here, billions going there, and he couldn't understand, how much is that? So this here shows the sums that went into certain areas, like for wars and so on. I zoom into it because here's a nice story. The pink part are the assumed cost for the Iraq war, and the black part is the total debt of Africa to the West. And I like these findings. This is very clear. This is what it's all about. It's simple. It's a lot of data going in there, but this is the story. And you can see that, and all of a sudden, your view on certain complex things is changing. I assumed the African debt much higher, and that learning that so much money went into a war that is probably being lost, and at the same time, there's no movement on African debt. That's the story. That's what we're shooting for. And then you can write articles based on that and activate. And there are more and more examples like that. This is another one from the UK. It is called Where Does My Money Go? And they're trying to visualize the budget of the UK. And this is like a movement. You see visualizations like that popping up everywhere else. And then there's something else which is really interesting. This is a project done by one visualizer, Catherine Malbrandon from the US. She ran a website called Visualizing Economics. And she wanted to do a book about income in the US. And she went to Kickstarter to get it funded. And by the end of the day, that is a screenshot in between. She wanted $6,000 to create a 30-page booklet of, making income more understandable. And she got like $14,000 for it from the backers on Kickstarter. So this is one point where I would argue that all of you have the opportunity to go into this process, and there will be people, who will be wanting to fund you for that. There's a need for that, and it's a good example that it's not, just for public measurement. So the question that we should ask, I guess, is what are the data tools future generations will find indispensable? And I would like to go on a bit in this presentation to go through that. I think that we need to visualize what affects us on all levels. We had this great example of the local grassroots data mapping, but effectively what you're doing in your local project is applicable to all levels of the visualization and process to understand it. And journalists in this process are being asked by people like Jeff Jarvis, where do you add value? And I believe using data as a basis for reporting is one of these paths to new value. And more or less coming to an end, there's something bigger in there. If media reporting would be based more on data, like really knowing what I'm talking about, we could move from attention, which is the current model. We're creating attention to sell advertising. We could probably move to trust-based concepts, where a media company is effectively a data hub that you can trust, that helps you understand the budget problems of your government or your local city, and that we're collecting this data. And this data can be applicable to, for example, to visualize things that surround us in a better way, but from our individual perspectives. That's the important point about it. So you see a car in the street, and with a device you can understand whether that car is actually creating high cost, has high pollution or whatever. So that's more or less it. The point here is that I would like to be one of a group of a community that is creating a ring of trustable services. How these trustable services will look like, it's up for us. It's like we have all the tools, we have the data. I guess if we understand this process, and it's by far not as complex as being scientific or being an artist, everybody of us can have a share in that. And it should be transparent, should be open. It should be based on the individual. It should not be about the government or the city. It should be of help to you to make decisions, fully informed decisions. Very often, that would be my argument today, it's difficult. We don't see what is affecting us. And it should have no hidden agenda. It should not be done for marketing purposes. It should be your data, and it should be fully in your control. So, and I think if we open that up, all of a sudden, this monoculture of one profit-driven story could open up to 1,000 stories where we see communities take the space surrounding them, where we could see people living in certain habitats and trying out different ways to live. And open for discussion, I would ask you, what would be the movie? Let us rewrite the script, and as I said, I think this is very open. It's very open to many people, whether you're a blogger or a journalist or whatever. We're looking for new curators for the future, and come join us, help in the process, be active on the platforms, and that's it. Thank you.